Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio with your host, K. William Spencer. This program is geared to help you see what thoughts and or beliefs are holding you back from being your best for yourself and those around you. Your life is only as good as your thoughts. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Now, here's your host. Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. I am, of course, your host, K. William Spencer. Today we have as our guest Troy Mathisen of the Mathisen system, and a gentleman that, as I've been hearing for the last 50 years, everybody knows him as Stash. Nobody knows him by his real name, so he is our version of Sting for today. His name is Stash. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, today we had discussed this. It was basically an open discussion. We're not going to worry about time. Just going to make sure that our recording lasts as long as we do. We were talking a little bit earlier, before we got on the air here, about some subjects that we want to talk about and discuss. And I guess we're going to start with the girl that is in Florida who did an experiment outside of the school with household chemicals in an 8-ounce bottle that just popped, didn't cause any damage to anyone or anything, and it was done in front of the school principal, who mentioned to everyone, including the media, that this child was never a problem to anyone or for anyone, never had problems with her ever at all. The rest of the school day went fine. The police heard about it and came and took her out of the school in handcuffs. And the school board says, we're going to make an example out of the student. Now, for me, that just sounds like the school board is trying to tell everyone in the nation, it doesn't matter whether you're a good kid or a bad kid, don't think. What do you guys think?
I'm afraid to.
It's interesting. This whole thing started as a real innocent science project. Basically, this event occurred on April 30th. It was a Monday at 7 a.m. And this girl named Kira Wilmot, typical 16-year-old honor student at this school in Bartow, Florida. This girl had never been in trouble, had a reputation for being nice to everyone, a straight A student, as I said, an honor student, and a lover of science.
Yep.
So she gets to school this Monday morning, and together with a friend, takes this little bottle and puts some aluminum foil in there and some toilet bowl cleaner and puts the cap on. Well, after about 30 seconds, this reaction occurs, right, where the aluminum foil reacts with hydrochloric acid in the cleaner.
Yep.
And causes the cap to blow off the top of this bottle. So there was a little bit of smoke produced. There was definitely a sound like a kind of a firecracker going off, right? Basically, it's been defined as what's called a works bomb, that apparently the information is freely available online everywhere. I don't know whether she knew this or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that they're punishing an honor student instead of this friend who is unnamed that was supposedly helping her with this experiment. It doesn't even say anything about whether this friend was a student of the school or not, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, no one was hurt by this explosion, but this 16-year-old honor student was handcuffed, arrested, and expelled from school, as you'd mentioned, Kurt. And according to the police report, she's been charged with 2 felonies. One of them being possession, and the other being a discharge of a weapon on a school grounds. And also she's been charged with discharging a destructive device. Okay? So the issue I really have on this matter is, why did the school board decide to attack a child and charge them with 2 felonies, which is basically a life-altering thing? I mean, this girl probably who was an honor student or is an honor student may never have good prospects for employment or a decent career in science ever again, because the school board doesn't have the intelligence apparently to go after this teacher who was responsible for conducting that class apparently.
Yeah, the other side of this, I'm going to let Stash talk here for a little bit. I try to look at it from a different point of view also. It's not so much just like it's just totally different from what you just said, but in addition to, it's I'm looking at it from a point of how does it work with her psychologically for her future, because it's like I was an honor student, everybody liked me, not everybody, but you know what I mean. In a general terms, everybody liked me, everybody was fine, the school principal liked me, everybody else was fine. And now, just for being curious, I get thrown into jail, and as you said, her prospects for her future are very dim and very dismal. And how does she deal with this? Psychologically, how does she deal with it? How do kids okay, this is in Florida. Okay, you guys are over in Oregon. How do kids even over there take a look at this and go, an honor student gets thrown into jail for doing a little home experiment, and she gets charged for damage for blowing off a bottle cap? That's the only damage that ever happened.
Right. Nobody lost their hearing. Nobody got an acid burn. Nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
It's a classic example of the government, whoever is responsible for the arrest and charge against this girl. It's a classic example of what's called a malum in se offense, which is an egregious crime being committed against someone for some type of ordinance violation, where nobody was hurt, no property was damaged, right? No contract was violated, and yet here is a government entity absolutely ruining an individual's future because of an oops.
Yep.
It's absolutely pathetic, in my opinion, of any agency to start attacking our children.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying you were wondering about her job prospects in the future. I can name two that she'll have immediately. One with the FBI and one with the CIA as a terrorism expert.
Well, we can always throw in the TSA.
Yeah, well, them too. But still, the FBI is so busy with creating bombers, and then stinging them. To me, this is criminal. But it seems like she would fit right into their program. Or if you believe in, which I do, MK Ultra, grab the smart ones and start controlling them.
Yeah.
They have leverage now over her because she has that felony. Now she can't get student loans. She can't do this, do that. That is if she's convicted of the felony, which so far it's an alleged crime. It hasn't been proven in court, and until they do, which I think they're going to have problems with, because nobody was hurt. She didn't do anything. She was not participating in this with malice aforethought and intended violence. It was just a science experiment, and I think if she gets a good lawyer, she'll beat it. But still, the idea is horrendous.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is being handled by the Polk County Attorney's Office, who is absolutely providing no information at this time. The case is still under investigation, and they're just simply not commenting on it. They won't even tell what the charges being brought against this girl are. I mean, I did mention that basically she's being charged with possession and discharge of a weapon on school grounds and discharging a destructive device. But beyond that, Polk County Attorney's Office isn't saying anything. But the issue I have is that now that they've got something over this girl, her life is not hers to live. She's under basically the control of someone else now for the rest of her days that can basically blackmail her or that kind of a thing, and basically tell her what she's gonna have to do when she becomes an adult and enters the world. I mean, that's just criminal in my mind. Way more criminal if she's convicted. Indeed. But on the same note, it's created a huge stigma here, and who knows how many children across the nation have been like, oh my goodness, what if I have an oops? Am I going to be marked as a terrorist and a felon and have my complete future prospects destroyed because some jackass in an attorney's office somewhere thinks that that's cool? I mean, it's really annoying. I'm really upset with the way that this world has gotten to the point where let's penalize anybody who does something I don't agree with.
Yeah, and the killing part about this is that it all happened with adult supervision. Supervision being just, in other words, there was an adult there watching what was going on. So it wasn't like there was somebody in the backyard or trying to do this as, when we used to do this, I won't say you guys were included, but when I used to do this stuff, crazy stuff we used to do when I was a kid, you'd go find a little hiding place around the backside of the school. Yeah, you didn't do any damage, but, it was basically against school rules to do it. And if you were caught, it was like, go home, we'll tell your parents about it. Your parents, slap you on the butt or whatever the case may be. And, okay, you're over. That's another thing. It was just growing up in life. Nobody called the police. But this is the other side of this, if I can venture to go there, is that Florida, if I remember this correctly, is a Republican state. And the Republicans are always talking about the rights of children, especially the unborn. And the joke generally, and it seems to be going true now, is that the Republicans care about you while you are in your mother's womb. As soon as you are born, they don't give a crap about you.
Until you're 18 and they can draft you.
There you go.
Yep, born into a contract you had no idea you were entering into.
Well, you're in one of those from birth with your birth.
That's what I'm talking about. Born into a contract. It's ridiculous.
One of the things I'm seeing in this case, and it keeps coming up, in our society, we are not one to fix things. Our society is all about treating symptoms. They're never about curing problems. They have this thing about terrorism, but what's the root cause of terrorism? Well, we're over blowing up somebody's country. If they were doing that here, you damn right we'd be fighting back. Of course. And so they're fighting back, and because they're fighting back, they're terrorists. And this girl, she's a potential terrorist because she knows how to make things explode.
Come on, anybody knows how. It's a piece of foil and toilet bowl cleaner. Give me a break.
Sure, but she actually did it. And therefore, that's a symptom of, and we got to treat this symptom. It's not, I don't know, it just flabbergasts me totally. Sometimes I get at a loss for words in my outrage.
That's right. I understand where you're coming from. It's kind of like what the AMA and the pharmacy tells you, or pharmaceutical companies. They say, we make drugs to work with the symptoms. It's not meant to cure.
Oh, and give you more symptoms, of course, so you can take more drugs.
Of course.
And it's the same thing with hunger. Remember the war on hunger, the war on poverty? It brought more poverty.
Right.
The war on terror brings more terror.
Yeah, war on drugs brings more drugs.
War on drugs brings more drugs. It just highlights what's wrong. It doesn't set out to fix it. And I think in all of this, just like in the drug thing, the government has a vested interest in this. We got soldiers guarding poppy fields in Afghanistan because the powers that be are making a kill.
Yeah. I actually read that, so yeah, I can substantiate that one definitely. Yep. Guarding poppy fields.
Soldiers guarding poppy fields.
Yep.
They're way back Vietnam with America. And, of course, the people who run that, it's well known, the Bush family thing. They started it. They're still running it today. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of
but
stuff.
This poor kid, now she's on the other end of this. She's just getting into it. And they've got her marked as a lifelong target now of someone they can, poster girl.
Yeah.
For anti-terrorism, just like they tried to create the poster kid for terrorism when they set up a kid who wouldn't have been able to do anything, to try and blow up the Christmas tree lighting in Portland. That, he could never have pulled that off without the FBI stepping in and guiding him through it, providing him with the materials, providing him with the advice, the guidance to do it. It's crazy. And why weren't the people who were involved with that, the FBI people, why weren't they put on trial? For
I'd like to know. Yeah. I'd like to know why we don't have a system where let's take this case of this young girl, Kiera Wilmot. I don't know why we don't have a system where if, for example, a prosecuting attorney files charges against her and she is basically found innocent and expunged, I would like to know why it is that the prosecuting attorney isn't sentenced. If we had that kind of a system going on, there would be a lot less frivolous lawsuits going on.
It's because the system is run by lawyers.
Right.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. And Stash, you and I were both in the Navy, but at different times. There was something that I learned in the Navy, not that you and I had spoken about this before. Neither one of us are violent people, but that's mainly because of our height and our size, and we know how to carry ourselves. We don't find it necessary to be violent. But in the Navy, well, I say the Navy because that was my experience, but I would assume it's that way throughout all the military, is that if you feel that you have been wronged by someone, you do not fight. They don't want fighting among the ranks. Use that one. Just remember that thought for a moment. They don't want fighting amongst the ranks. We go out and fight and kill other people. They are enemies, but we don't do that among ourselves. So if you have a problem, say if I have a problem with you, Stash, I have to go and fill out a form, and the adjunct general will, whoever gets involved in this, will do an investigation on it. And if it's true and they can prove everything that you're saying, you will suffer the consequences. However, if I say something against you because maybe you breathed on me just in passing and I can't stand that and I didn't like you in the first place, they do an investigation on it and find out, oh, you just wanted to cause him some problem because you don't like him. I get the punishment, not you.
Yeah.
You remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't be a whistleblower. Don't turn on your buddies, But of course, that was always handled a different way. We had little things called blanket parties. Where in the middle of the night, you're sound asleep, somebody throws a blanket over you and half of your company jumps on you.
Yep.
Who did that? Well, I don't know. All I know is that 57 people jumped on my bed and started beating the hell out of me. It wasn't blatant. It wasn't out front.
Government
but it was handled.
Yep.
Government is doing the same kind of thing that the military does. It's like if one person steps out of line in that troop, everybody gets punished kind of thing.
Yep.
Not fair.
Nope.
Well, it starts in school. Did you bring enough gum for the whole class?
Right.
Unless I find out who threw that spitwad, the whole class is going to stay in for recess.
Yep.
That is absolutely criminal thinking in my mind.
I agree.
I grew up in a home. I was never in the armed services. I didn't think there would any way I'd ever be able to do that after growing up with a stepfather who was in the Air Force. And he would go to work and basically have orders barked at him all day and then come home and turn us kids into his little troops. And I'm telling you, the bullshit that we went through, I mean, all it would take is one of us kids to step out of line and all four of us would basically get in trouble. And that I felt like my whole childhood was so unjust. I actually resented that man. I actually still have issues to this day about how unfair of you to not take my word, know that I'm telling the truth, know that obviously all of us aren't guilty, so continue on with your investigation until you are sure who is responsible, and then take the appropriate action against that individual. You don't just make a blanket statement. And I see that going on, for example, with the gun issue today. It's like, oh my God, somebody shot somebody at a school somewhere in the nation. So let's take away, millions of guns from people who are responsible, legal gun holders. It's that mentality that really has to be kind of swept under the carpet and forgotten about forever. You cannot punish a whole group because somebody had an oops.
Yeah. Well, you see, also that leads to, if there are four of you and if one of you steps out of line, then everybody gets punished, and the other three tend to watch each other saying, don't do that, or I'm going to make sure that they know that it was you. I'll tell on you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we're fostering in the society. A big, if you see something, call somebody. Snitch on your neighbor if you think he's doing anything stupid or illegal. Whether he is or not. If you don't like him, call in and tell somebody. It's ridiculous. Our whole thing has come down to that we've gotten totally away from the idea of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Everybody else is responsible, not me.
Yeah. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault.
I think a lot of that just from people I've talked to, or that comes from in the very beginnings, early childhood, religious orders. The churches teach us that if something really good happens to us, that we should be thanking God, and if something bad happens, well, God works in mysterious ways. But if I did something bad, well, the devil made me do it. It's always this externalization of account. Thank God, devil made me do it. It's his fault, and she did it. That we're taught that literally. I remember going through those thoughts when I was 5, kindergarten. You know what I mean? Thinking, how come I'm supposed to thank God for something that I did that was a good thing that I'm now getting rewarded for?
Yeah.
Religion is a whole nother issue we can talk on for hours.
Yeah.
It's so disturbing that nobody claims any accountability or responsibility for their own actions. They're always looking for some other direction to divert the attention away from them. And the sad thing is that people are so used to diverting that attention away from them that people who are actually malintent that go out there and do this blatantly are still kind of like the kid in class who would, for example, fart in class during testing, knowing full well, hold it or, be quiet about it. But he'll go ahead and rip a huge fart, and then he'll immediately stand up in class, turn around and blame the kid behind him like, hey, man, I'm trying to do a test here.
Yeah.
It's that kind of mentality that seems to be running things, and I really don't know how we can get past that. But we've got to get some of these children out of power.
Well, that's one of the goals of this quote unquote revolution that's going on, to take us back to our constitutional republic, because that actually puts the full-blown responsibility for your life and your actions on you. You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but those things aren't guaranteed. You have to go get them. You have to take responsibility for your life. You have to do something, and it's up to you. And if you do something wrong, the responsibility is yours, period.
Let me insert something, if I may.
Sure.
I think what most people miss out, and I've had this discussion with people over the years, is what you just said about the Constitution. It gives you the right to pursue happiness. People think that the government is there to give you happiness. No, you have the right to pursue it. As you're saying, it is your responsibility. You want happiness? Get up off your derriere and go get it. Go work for it. Yeah, it's just like me. I wanted a radio show. I'm not going to sit here and just go, well, I guess the government is going to come and give me the radio show. No, I had to get up and go make it. It's just like Troy. He's working on some projects. He's curious about it. He's not going to wait for the government to go, here's the answers. Oh, I'm happy now. No. Sometimes it's just the process of getting there. that makes you happy.
Same coin is that what the government giveth, the government can take away.
Yeah, this is sounding like George Carlin. We have privileges, we don't have rights.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I was reading the other day that made ultimate sense is stop claiming your constitutional rights. The Constitution does not give you rights. Those rights are God-given, your inalienable rights, and the Constitution strictly guarantees those rights, but they don't give you those rights. So you have to stop saying, I have constitutional rights. I have God-given inalienable rights to these things, and the Constitution merely says, yes, you have the right to those things.
Mm-hmm.
And defend it. It's there to limit the government, not us.
Exactly.
And it's been turned around with the corporate constitution from 1857, was it? That, it's all for the corporation. It's all corporate law. It's we're all corporate employees, and we're following corporate rules.
Now, as a matter of fact, as I remember it, back in the late 1800s, corporations were entities that were started when there was a need for, if you will, private citizens or whatnot to do something, to build a road. It wasn't it wasn't the government that built a road. It was a corporation that built the road. So the corporation was started to do a project, and when the project was finished, the corporation ended. But corporations found that they can make a lot of money and they could continue this, so they fought to keep themselves into power. And that's why, I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but anybody can go look this up. Anybody, and you can find it. I'm talking about incredible sources. That this is how corporations got their start in the United States.
Actually, it went even farther back than that. The East India Corporation, when this place was founded, they wanted everything, and they were doing it in the name of king and the Pope and country, and they started it wanting to hold on to everything in the colonies, and the colonists didn't want the corporation running everything. That's why we had our revolution.
Right.
The East India Corporation had the monopoly on transport of goods back to the homeland, and they ruled with an iron fist worldwide, and it just kept on.
Yep. Wait a minute. Let me take a little break here for our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Troy Mathisen of the Mathisen System and Stash, who I didn't mention before, has his history in the music business, and maybe he'll come back and tell us a little bit more about his history as we continue our show. We'll be right back.
I love what Maya Angelou had to say about the power of the spoken words. She said, I quote, "Words mean more than what is set down on paper. It takes the human voice to infuse them with deeper meaning," end quote. And that is the reason I made the decision to put my words into an audiobook. So please check out my spoken words in my new audiobook, Your Life, Your Way. The 10 must-have goals to improve your life. It's now available. You can either go to my website at www.coachingbyria.com and purchase it there. You can also download the book from iTunes by going to the link I provided in the show page, or simply go to the iTunes stores and put my name in the search, Coach Ria Wilkie, and you will be able to download the audiobook from there. And I do thank you all for doing so. And if you like to write a review, please do so. And I'm always grateful to be in service. Thank you.
Hi, this is K. William Spencer of Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Come and join us every Tuesday and Thursday for enlightening, humorous, and intriguing conversations with my guest, or just a monologue of thoughts that I share, all to help you look at life and your choices differently. For more information, go to YTYRradio.tk. That's YTYRradio.tk.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com. And you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria.
Okay, welcome back. Again, I am K. William Spencer, your host, and Troy Mathisen, who is our main presenter, and our guest, and I guess co-presenter, is Stash. Tell us a little bit something about yourself, Stash, and then we can continue where we left off.
Oh, well, I'm sort of a jack of all trades. I've been in many, many professions. I was a computer field engineer. I started in radio broadcasting at 10 years old, mixing sound. So I've been doing that for 52, almost 53 years now. But finally, after a lot of years, I just really got tired of fixing other people's broken stuff, and decided I wanted to be in the music industry, and finally snuck in the back door of the Paramount Theater, and they were flabbergasted. I had a resume that could choke a horse. Why would you want to work here part-time for minimum wage? Because I want in the business. And that was almost, that was in 1975, almost 14,000 shows ago. You know, doing everything from loading trucks to being the promoter, on stage, behind the stage, radio, television, legitimate theater, every area of the entertainment business. And I decided along the way that, well, I read a quote by Robert Heinlein, and it stuck with me because that's what I believed. It was about a human being should be able this insane list of things, build a wall, cook a tasty meal, plan a battle, program a computer, pilot a spaceship, do all of this stuff because specialization is for insects. And I took that to heart. So anything and everything I wanted to do, I did, and ended up doing it pretty well. Uh-huh. But when I was 19, a couple of my buddies in the Navy handed me a couple of harmonicas, and that was 43 years ago, and I'm still playing them. And I picked up other instruments, and basically I'm just an entertainment specialist, expert, consultant, you know, in all aspects. And I got tired of my friends being screwed by record companies, so I went and learned the business end of the deal and took business classes and the whole 9 yards, just to totally immerse myself in the industry. And in the meantime, I got in the Navy when I was 19, and 18 actually, and during Vietnam, and started finding out just what they were up to and how badly they were lying to everyone. You know, they asked me if I wanted to go to Vietnam. It was extra money, you know, hazardous duty pay and all that. I said, sir, when they hit our beach, I'll be the first SOB on the beach with a gun protecting my home. But I'm not going to Vietnam to protect Lyndon Johnson's corporate holdings. You know, that's that. And then they asked me if I wanted to be on a submarine, and I said, with all due respect, sir, you're not getting me on a boat designed to sink. You know? Yeah. So it was just, I've basically done everything I wanted to do. And that was it. And my life, people say it's pretty interesting, but boy, it's been a lot of hard work. Being a stagehand is not a glamorous profession at all. No. And any other thing, you know, being a computer field engineer traveling all over Oregon and California and Idaho and Washington, it cost me a marriage. You know, the job market, I've worked myself most of my life. I've been self-employed, an entrepreneur, you know.
Yeah.
So that's me. I want to know everything. I vowed a long time ago to learn something new every day, and I've done it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what joins the three of us together, is just that ability to get up and go do what we want to do. I know Troy and I have been longer friends than Stash and I, but I hear this through Stash as the same thing. It's like, okay, I'm curious about it. Let me go find out more information about it. And we just go at it from there. And we're very misunderstood people around the people that want to hold on to, as I call it, conformity, because we're not conformists per se. We're nice, peaceful people, but to live our lives and saying, get up, go to a 9-to-5 job, come home, pet the kids, play with the dog, usually that's the way it goes, and then watch TV or play video games or whatever, it's not our game.
Trick yourself into submission.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that quote real quick. I wanted to. This is the one that really affected my life. It said a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects.
Yeah.
So that comes from Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein.
There you go. Well, Troy, I'm glad to hear you're still there, because I was beginning to think the conversation was between Stash and I. So.
Oh, no, I was just listening.
I get to talking, and it's hard to shut me up sometimes.
That's okay. I think that's true for all three of us.
No doubt.
Troy, did you have anything that you wanted to contribute? Because I'm thinking about something I'd like to segue into another thought. So.
Sure. Well, just to kind of sum up where we began this conversation, I think the thing most disturbing about this, the system itself, is that, we're all three of us basically polymaths. I mean, we all have the diverse background of different types of experiences. And that comes back to our inquisitive minds and our pursuit of happiness. And what I find so disturbing about this Kira Wilmot case is that there are saboteurs out there who are people in power who are absolutely doing everything they can to make sure nobody has the chance to experiment. And I find that extremely disturbing. It's like, what, you can't write a song without people saying, gee, you know what? That song sucks. Well, you know what? That's not constructive criticism. What I'd like to hear is that you did like this about the song and you didn't like to hear that about it. That's constructive criticism. But it's like anymore, it seems that the people in power are absolutely all about subjugation, condemnation. You can't do this anymore, and since you did it, well, we're going to never let you live it down. I mean, that kind of stuff's got to stop. I don't really understand why the citizens of this country haven't done that to people in power. Like drones being assigned to American citizens. Give me a break. How are you going to assign drones in this country to over 300 million people? I got a good idea. Let's take all of the drones and assign it to 3 million people who are causing the problems for the other 300 million. There's a plan. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm really frustrated about the way this country has gone, where basically 99% of the people are being told what they can and can't dream, what they can and can't say, what they can and can't do. I mean, who are these people? They have no right to impose upon the dreams of others. I'm sorry. And those kinds of people are really the true criminals that this country faces right now as an issue we have got to get under control so that we can start to thrive instead of simply survive.
Okay, there's the key. You said we have got to get under control. And that's the thing that most Americans have forgotten, is
right.
That by the Constitution, we the people are the duly appointed government of this country. And we the people have become so lazy and complacent We've been dumbed down. Our water's been poisoned. Our food's been poisoned. I mean, the Germans used fluoride in World War II in the concentration camps to keep the prisoners lethargic and down. It causes mental problems. And we've let them do this to us. We've let them. We, the home of the brave and the free, are now we, the home of the couch potato, the scared little couch potato. People have got to get the guts to stand up and say no. And I try to get everybody I know to watch the movie Network.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The end of the movie explains, there is no America, there is no Europe, there is no religion, there's only the almighty dollar, the petrodollar, the electrodollar, that's what this world is about, is business. It has nothing to do with people and rights or anything else. It's all about making money.
Yeah, now you actually took it right to where I was thinking about going in the first place. Stash, let me back up a little bit, and Troy as well. Sure. I joined the Navy during the Vietnam War because I'm only, 3 years younger than Stash in the first place. I went into the Navy because I actually applied for what was called a conscientious objectors listing. And I wrote in and said that while I have no problems with the military, I refuse to be involved in a war that was not an attack on the United States. And I just I told everybody, I said, I will join the military. I have no problems with the military, but I'm not going to go to Vietnam. And if they would have pushed me into Vietnam, I would have purposely hit an officer and spent the rest of my time in the brig. I didn't care. I am not going to fight for something that is, I didn't use it as Stash at it as Lyndon Johnson's thing, but these people didn't come to America and attacked us. And as far as I understood, is even the Constitution, the military is supposed to be protecting the United States, not going to somebody else's country to go, I don't like what you're doing. Now, I agree that World War II was a war that we should have gotten into. We were a little slow in it, but after World War I, and everybody said, we don't like what we saw there, they said, no, we're a nation of pacifists. So it took Japan for us to get involved in it. But that's another story altogether.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's just a point of, I will protect my country. As I said it, I will even protect the guy that hates me. Could be a Ku Klux Klan member that lives next door, and he hates my guts. But I will protect him because at least we have one thing in common. We live here.
Yeah, this is my home. And as it stands right now, we don't have enough troops or weapons on the continent here to protect America. All of our troops are spread worldwide. So thin, that's why the militias are taking such a big growth spurt, because Americans at home, the veterans are saying, wait, if they won't protect us, they can't protect us because they're all gone. We'll protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And of course, the government doesn't want that. The government does not want us protecting ourselves. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and they believe they have absolute power. Our public servants are totally out of control, especially public servant number one.
Yeah.
We have to stand up as a nation and say, no more wars. I mean, we were goaded into World War II because the powers that be in this country, and this is not a theory anymore, this is a true conspiracy, they goaded the Japanese into attacking Pearl Harbor and intentionally left the fleet in the harbor so we would go to war.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the major false flags of the United States government. Just like the Gulf of Tonkin, the Bay of Pigs, they were all things to get us to go to war, to outrage Americans. And 9/11 worked big time.
Yep.
It
almost worked on me.
It almost, the day it happened, I knew that it was an inside job the day it happened, because when they came and told King George that the buildings had been hit, he didn't flinch. He didn't blink. His book was upside down that he was supposedly reading with the kids, and they didn't pick him up and rush him off to a safe place.
Yep.
Excuse me, that's wrong. I know something's not right when that happens, you know.
Yeah, well, it's Troy and I've had this conversation on this, what I'm about to say, at least a few times. We've talked about it about in different situations. We were saying, have you ever noticed that there's a problem going on? How do we know where it's going? And we always end up coming back to saying, follow the money. And I started with this one afterwards. And if you can't find where the money is going to take you, then look who is going to be the beneficiary of that reaction or the action that just happened.
Exactly.
Of course. There are no accidents in politics.
Nope.
There are none. Everything that happens, even to the outing of Billy Clinton and Monica, that was intentional.
That was something that Franklin Delano Roosevelt always said. If something to do with politics, trust me, it was planned.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the reason that it got out was because somebody in power wanted to out Clinton. Period. These things go on day and night. I mean, Washington is rampant with, scandals and whatever. The hooker business in Washington is one of the biggest employers.
Mm-hmm.
But the only time it comes out is when somebody wants to get somebody.
Got it.
So, I take most of their scandals with a grain of salt. I assume 90% of them are playing around when their wives are at home,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, you take care of the kids. I got a meeting to go to.
And she's cute.
Yeah, of course.
Even Mr. O got slapped on the wrist recently for saying something about, what was it, a public defender or somebody, I forget which, but he says, best looking attorney general or whatever that I've ever had to deal with, and people just jumped all over that like smell on dung.
Uh-huh.
It's this politically correct thing, bull.
Yeah.
To me, that's the biggest oxymoron of the 20th century. Politically correct. Nothing political is correct. Period.
I think I need to throw some George Carlin videos on here.
Oh yeah, especially the one about the American dream. You got to be asleep to believe
You
it.
got it. Yeah, I was thinking about his politically correct one as well. It's just that we've made language so dry, it doesn't mean anything to anybody. And he went through a whole skit on that one, but I won't get into that now. But there is something that we did talk about a little bit earlier, and I'm taking this role because Troy is sitting back over there just kind of like, I'm just listening. I like listening to these guys. Okay, we're going to get Troy back into this one.
A vacuum for information, man. It's like, give it to me.
I'm like a sponge.
Yep.
We were talking about this earlier, and we even mentioned that we have a mutual friend that has a deep interest in this. One that actually is older than the three of us. Not put together, but all three of us. We're talking about the disclosure, about what's going on with the UFO community and whatnot. And for some of our listeners that may even consider that UFOs are just something that's made up and all that kind of stuff, this may be difficult even if just to give it to you from a personal perspective, but I have seen them. And I've seen them from a great distance at nighttime and thought I was looking at stars and seeing stars that are actually moving in an S formation, but a square S, if you will. And there's no way a square S could do that, and there's no square S. There's no way that any one of our airships could do that outside of a helicopter, but we're talking about at nighttime, and it looks something that looks like a a star. And we know that our jets can't do that. And so what was it? Now, just, what was it, 2 years ago this coming August, I was standing in a parking lot, and give the short story, I thought what was a plastic bag being blown into the wind 2 blocks away turned out to be, as it moved towards me, it was not a plastic bag that got blown up by wind. This thing actually flew by close enough where I could have had a .22 pistol and shot it even with my glasses off, and I'm nearsighted. It was that close. Didn't make a sound, didn't do anything. But people here in Mexico, as many people already know, Mexicans don't get shaken up by it because it's an occurrence down here that everybody just goes, oh yeah, okay, there's another one. And they just keep going, because I'm in a parking lot and I'm looking up, and this is a parking lot of a grocery store, and most people are just walking by, texting and whatever else they're doing, and I think maybe only one other person looked up, but nobody cared. It's just a happening. So what do you guys think about this disclosure that seems like everybody in the United States is trying to fight for, but the governments are going,
You want to go first, Troy?
Well, for me, I think what's driving Americans nuts is that they know that there's stuff going on up there, just like the people of Mexico and other countries. But every time there's an incident, it's like in this country we're expected to keep that to ourselves, because if we don't, we're going to be labeled crazy. And all of a sudden, now we no longer have any kind of credibility with the people that we've divulged that information to. Because those people know if they embrace that and believe the story and tell some other person about it, then the people that they tell are going to think they're crazy too, and so there's this lid on information in this country, and it doesn't matter what kind of information you're talking about, I mean, it's like somebody doesn't want you to know something. And they go through great lengths to keep that from you. And that's frustrating to people who are inquisitive, that want to learn new things. I mean, how in the hell is somebody supposed to grow if they're not able to try things? That's what the whole experience of life is about, learning. And I don't know. It's like this country has just pretty much gotten to the point where every aspect of anyone's life, I don't care who you name, every aspect of their life is being micromanaged by somebody else, and usually it's people who don't even have their own shit together, as it were, pardon my French. And what are these people doing, focusing on other people and what they're doing when they really ought to be working on themselves?
Again, I think it comes back to this thing of absolute power corrupts, absolutely. I was watching some of the citizen disclosure videos on YouTube before they started taking them down. Somebody does not want that out there, but the panel actually asked the witnesses, the experts, why would the government do this? Well, let's see. Number one, they're getting alien technology that they don't want us to know they have, and we've seen a lot of it come out, everything from scalar weapons to the transistor when it was first invented. Also, if they can control our contact with the aliens, they can keep us from knowing, that we're not just little peons that the government tolerates. We're actually worth something in this universe. We're one of them as well as one of us. It would also unite the planet in a way that governments can't control. And also now there's been many occurrences where a UFO, and these are reported by people who are there at the sites, come over missile silos or nuclear storage facilities, and when they're gone, none of the weapons work. They're all neutralized.
Yep.
And we've sent jets up to fight them. Many have disappeared. Many can't even catch them. And how are they going to say we're going to defend you when they can't even touch these for self-protection to keep us from knowing the truth. And I myself it took me up until, God, it was like, I think 2 months ago when my lady and I were headed for Eugene. I had my first, what I believe is a UFO experience. And, I had somewhat accepted until that point that these things were real, but that just brought it home for me. I was watching a couple of jets doing chemtrails, and all of a sudden, the chemtrails ended. All of a sudden, the jet disappeared, and all I saw was a silver globular glint in the sky right in front of the jet, where the jet was supposed to be. And then about, maybe half an hour later, farther down the road, I looked out the driver's window, and there was this silver sphere in the air. It was maybe 3 miles away. And I thought, wow, finally. And they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're getting rid of the chemtrail generators. And a lot of people don't even believe that, until I even presented to some people the Air Force manual on chemtrail training, and they still wouldn't believe it. The cognitive dissonance and denial in our society has been so bred into us over the decades, through our educational system, through our media, through our politicians. It's like, if you believe in UFOs, you're crazy. We're the only ones in the universe. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. And if you believe differently, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're a loon. You put on your tinfoil hat, I've been called all these names. And, personally, I don't care what you think. Most people's, you have to excuse my French, most people's opinions to me right now have the value of a fart, or the weight of a fart in a hurricane. I really don't care what you think of me. I know what I saw. Yes. I know what I've experienced. Exactly. I know what I learned. And if you can't accept that, too bad for you. So it comes down to how far down the rabbit hole are people willing to go? And most people in our American society don't even want to know there's a rabbit hole.
I have a question, and I'm going to ask because I know Stash has an answer for this, or at least his opinion on it, and this is fine. So, Troy, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation first, but I'm going to ask this question. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, and actually I got this from listening to you guys talk, and I'm going to ask the question, who are the true criminals in the country? Are they the government? Is it corporations? Or is it us who refuse to see and to believe and to acknowledge and to study for ourselves what is real and what is not?
For me, it boils down to there's three things I consider true crimes. Okay, one is damage to a person. The other is a damage to their property, and the third would be a violation of a contract that was knowingly entered into, but one has decided to violate. Okay, those three things are crimes, in my opinion. Okay? The guy right down the street without his bicycle helmet on, even though there's supposedly some city ordinance that says you absolutely must wear a bike helmet, or we're going to basically extort money out of you by fining you. And not only that, but we're going to waste your time too, and you're not going to make a damn cent while we ask you to jump through all these hoops. That kind of action is truly criminal. So when I look at things like malum prohibitum as a foundational premise for law, malum prohibitum, in my mind, is crime. Because those ordinances are generally created to protect a business interest, right? That business being defined as a person. Okay, well, a company doesn't have feelings. A company's future can't be ruined for life, most of the people that run these companies, and granted, most of them run them into the ground, are able to go right out the next day and start a whole new business entity as if nothing ever happened and continue on with the same malpractices that got them into trouble with the previous non-living entity.
Mm-hmm.
Those are criminals. These are people not learning by their mistakes. They are acting against others and actually committing a more egregious offense than the one that they're accusing the defendant of. That's what I think is the real criminal.
Mm-hmm. Stash?
Well, first off, you brought to mind an old joke, about business. Joke was Ronald Reagan was asked, how would you go about starting a small business in America? And he said, well, I'll start a big one and wait. But unfortunately, we are unwittingly doing criminal actions in ourselves, in that we are not the one. I say this to people all the time. The one truly patriotic duty that we have besides voting and jury duty. I don't include taxes in that because we shouldn't have to pay taxes. But our one first and foremost duty as citizens is to question everything our representatives do in our names. And the biggest crime I see is complacency, laziness. The American people are not monitoring their public servants. And we have the best political system, judicial system that money can buy, and it has bought. It's not a question of whether a Washington politician is corrupt. It's more a question of how much does it take to corrupt them. Yep. And the corporations, including, now every government agency is a private corporation. Mm-hmm. All the alphabet agencies are private corporations. The Fed is a private corporation, and it's all ruled by the golden rule. He who's got the gold makes the rules. This is where we're at.
Can I ask you to pause there just for a second?
Sure.
Before I lose this thought. Because most people would probably disagree with you, but I'm going to bring it home. Look at your own city, town, wherever you live within the United States. I can't speak for other places. Look at that and tell me when your town, when your city was incorporated. And just continue from there.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the state of Oregon incorporated. The county of Jones incorporated. The local police department is a private company. And basically all they are is the brute squad for the city corporation. Mm-hmm. They don't even have legally, under the Uniform Commercial Code, they do not have the power to arrest you. They can stop and cite you, but they can't take it any farther than that. And even if they do that by common law, which is what Troy was describing with the three basic laws, they have no right to interfere with you unless there is probable cause that you have violated one of those big three crimes. And then they have to come at you with a signed complaint and a warrant. They have no right to stop you if you're just maybe going 5 miles over the speed limit, or your registration has expired on your car. Even if you don't have a driver's license, they have no legal authority to arrest you. They can file a complaint, and then the court can come after you, and you can defend on that. But by their own laws, everything they have has to have a remedy. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is, when you register your vehicle, you're asking for the state for permission to use your own private property to travel freely on the roads of America, which every sovereign citizen is guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And you're giving them part ownership in your vehicle. You're registering it as a corporate vehicle. When you go to get your driver's license, you are registering yourself as a corporate employee saying you will follow their rules, and they have no right to do it. Even the UCC defines a driver as someone who is operating a motor vehicle, a commercial vehicle, for profit. You're not. You're just traveling from one place to another, which is your right. And they're trying to control your travel as a sovereign citizen. And it's not their place, but they don't tell you the whole truth. You have to get a driver's license or you can't drive because driving is a privilege. Well, yes, driving, which is operating over the road for profit, yes, you do need a license. But traveling in your private conveyance, you don't need a license for that. But they won't tell you that. The whole basis of these things, these corporate regulations and whatever, is fraud because they're not telling you the whole story. And that is fraudulent. That is one of the 3 basic laws. You don't defraud people in a contract. A contract is void if both parties aren't informed of all of the parts of that contract. And you're not. Just like with your birth certificate. You don't have to have a birth certificate. Your parents don't have to register your birth. All they're doing basically is signing over ownership of their kids to the government. And that's why Children's Services can come and take your kids away because you've given them permission. It's all fraud. That's the bottom line right now. That's why we need to go back to the constitutional republic, to the common law, common constitutional law.
Right.
I'm done.
Kurt, I wanted to come back to the question you had about who is the real criminal enterprise. And I wanted to use that example we were talking about when we first came on the top of the hour. I look at this situation with this girl who was handcuffed, arrested, and expelled from school in an event where nobody was hurt, no property was damaged, no contract was violated, okay? So we got her. On the other hand, we have the police department. She was charged with 2 felonies, handcuffed, arrested, and expelled from school. Who is the criminal in that case? I think it's the police department.
I'm not. Okay, if you're waiting for me to respond, okay.
I actually am. I'm just,
Okay. Now, my response is on that one is I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. What I will venture to say is that there's more than one criminal in this. The police department, yes. The school board, yes.
Yes.
The principal, yes, because he should know better. And the parents and the community, because why? And Stash just got through saying it in his own way, is that we do not know what we should know. The information is there. People probably look at us, as Stash says, I don't care what you think of me. I know, and I can prove it, and it makes sense. But you prefer, I'm not talking about you and Stash, I'm talking about other people.
Right.
You prefer to say, no, this doesn't exist, no, this is not true, but what are you standing on? What is your basis for your beliefs? Is it just public opinion? Is it community? Is it just because it feels right and I don't feel like studying?
Mm-hmm.
The information is there, but we're the ones who get called the kooks, we're called the weirdos, or even as Stash says, we're called the conspiracy theorists, but yet we can prove it. You just don't want to believe it even when we do prove it.
Right.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Well, in that sense, you really can't put the blame on one specific thing other than to say our society is to blame. What we have allowed to transpire, in that sense, we're all to blame.
Yes.
Apathy is the biggest criminal we have. Apathy, laziness,
Fear.
complacency, fear. And the powers that be are good at instilling fear in us. The only terrorists we really have live in Washington, D.C. The only enemies we have are the ones they create for us.
Right, right.
This was the whole idea of what Troy and I were talking about probably about a month ago when we decided to even start this show. It's just to try to get people to wake up and go, hey, check it out. Here's the evidence. Here's the material that you should know. That's the whole idea of this discussion group, and that's what we're trying to bring people into. Sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Well, you're right in that sense, but the thing you have to consider is people only hear when they're ready to hear, and the rest of the time it's selective hearing.
You got that right.
And they have been trained in our society to hear certain things only, and the rest is BS. The rest is conspiracy theory. The rest is just plain, don't even bother with it.
Mm-hmm.
And those who tell the truth, those who have the answers, who have gone out and found the answers, well, they're conspiracy theorists. They're nuts. They're, don't, believe what they say, believe what we say, because we're in power. We're your authority. Excuse me? My authority comes from a much higher place than you.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I'm going to go venture into something else. If you guys want to take this and run with it, that's fine. But I just want to, because it's been sitting on my mind since we started into the conversations about an hour ago. We touched on that, and Stash, you said yes, we could actually talk on this subject for hours on end. We could, but I'm just only going to pull up one example because this is at least a subject that I'm going to use for an example is something that's always in the news in the United States, especially right now, well, over the last probably 6 months, if not longer. It's this thing about equality in marriage. In other words, can gays and lesbians get married legally? Okay, they're living together already. The issue is not whether or not it's religiously acceptable. Your religion dictates that to you. That's your religious choice. What I don't like and I find offensive in this is I'm not a Christian, so don't tell me what Christianity will and will not accept. And matter of fact, as far as I know, many Christians don't agree on everything that the other Christian next to them is saying. So who is actually right? Who's supposed to say what's correct and what's not correct? We know other religions will say, no, that's not acceptable. Some will say, yes, that is acceptable. Whatever the case may be. The point basically is with government, and this is all a legal issue anyway. We're not talking about religion. We're talking about what the government wants to allow. Here we have two people that live together, and as I was mentioning it to somebody else, because they're either gay or lesbian, some of these people, matter of fact, I would assume majority of these people, their families will not support them. They just ostracize them. No, you're going to go that route. I don't want to be associated with you. Don't come around, whatever. But if that person, one of those two people, has to go to the hospital, to use that as an example, and they cannot speak for themselves, they cannot sign the rights for, say, a surgery or whatever, they have to have a legal representative from the family come in and say yes or no. But this person's family member has been, no, I don't want to be involved with him because he's gay or she is lesbian, whatever, and they are now called in to make a decision over somebody they can't stand because of their choice, or I'll just leave it at choice because I don't want to go through a whole big definition of why they're gay and lesbian. Okay, I've had, matter of fact, I still have even family members that are gay. I don't know any lesbians in my family, but whatever. The point basically is, if the person that this gay or lesbian person is living with and loves them dearly has no rights to say, look, I already know what the person wants. I live with the person every day. Okay, this is a person I love. I spend my time laughing and joking and just sharing in life. But you're telling me legally I have no right to tell you what that person wants? but you can talk to his cousin, his aunt, his mother, who hasn't seen him in 10 years, and she or he is going to make a decision. Or when that person dies, if that person, whether he's wealthy or poor, he leaves something to the person he's been living with or she's been living with for all these years, but he can't take it unless it goes through probate court.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Yes, it is totally ridiculous. This is where I think government just says, look, you have a religious belief. You talk about that to your religious leader. We as the government have no complaints, no problems in your marriage, in your relationship. Going back to common law. Am I hurting you? Is anything I'm doing hurting myself? And is it causing a criminal activity? No. So we don't get involved.
Then you come back to government regulations in getting a marriage license. Now, I'm an ordained minister, and I have performed 2 weddings, over the last few years. And I read up on the Oregon law, and it says that in order for 2 people to be married, really all it takes is for them to believe that they are married, and for society, their peer group, their whatever they operate in, to accept that they are married. That is the basis for it. The rest of it is our Judeo-Christian bias. That's it. They say it's wrong. Well, the church says it's wrong. I had a Southern Baptist grandfather who'd be rolling over in his grave if I turned gay. But the whole thing comes back to, well, to me, the biggest mistake the gays ever made was the same anybody makes. You don't take your love life out of the bedroom. And as far as being married, the government should have no say in that whatsoever. But what you're doing is you are registering your marriage, your partnership as a business, and any offspring out of that business belongs to the government. But if you're gay, there's not going to be any offspring. How can they profit from that? How can they benefit from that? Best money can buy.
If the contract doesn't exist and no will was written, then guess what? Government obtains ownership of that deceased person's property. And they love that. It's free stuff for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I started laughing because what Stash was saying, there's a little poster picture that's going around on Facebook. It says, if you have a problem with gays and lesbians, get on the heterosexual marriages because they're the ones who are producing gays and lesbians.
Classic.
It's funny. We grew up. I'm the oldest of 6, and for all our lives, there were 2 friends in my parents' life, Chuck and Carol. And until I was in the Navy, I never realized they were gay. I always thought they were just friends. These were 2. One of them was the world's expert in dealing with autism and communications disabled persons, children. This man was the world expert. The other one was a packaging expert who helped design Disneyland in Japan. These men were raving geniuses. And I never thought twice about, them being together or whatever. And until I was in the Navy and I made a statement about scoring something, they said, well, we kind of have a different definition of that. I said, oh, okay, I got it now. But then that was when it hit me. But as far as the rest of my life, these were just 2 brilliant friends of my parents. I never even thought about it.
Yep.
And it never came up. They kept it to themselves. They were happy. They were well-adjusted. They were marvelous people. I loved them till they died. But, socially, I should not have been associating with them because they were gay.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's the thing of well, I have some relatives that are the same way. I told you about that. Some first cousins that are that way. And some athlete, and I don't know who it was, and I didn't even know who the guy was, and I can't tell you who his name is now because I don't care. All of a sudden, he hits the news because he came out of the proverbial closet and says, "I'm gay." And my first response was, "And who cares?"
Yeah, it was a basketball player about a week ago.
Yeah, and I'm just going, who cares? I don't care what your sexual life is. It has
You
nothing
honor
to
your
do with my
contract.
life. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We used to joke about it with Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, and people used to say this all the time. Says, we have no wars. We have skirmishes, but we always do. We have no wars. I've got a job. I can go on my vacations. I got a car. I got everything that I ever wanted, and the country's at peace. The president is doing his job, so if he gets a little bit of on the side, who cares?
And like
That's the problem between him and his wife, not between the country and us.
And of course, the one-liner I heard about that is, of course, Billy would find the one Jewish girl who couldn't get a stay now.
Yeah.
And of course, I heard another one that said that they found out who Chelsea's real father was. Janet Reno.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you see, so I mean, it's rampant. The
Yeah.
jokes are there. People joke about it, but when it gets serious, they don't understand that basically my relationship with anybody is my relationship with them. It's none of your business.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest, I think right there is one of the biggest problems we have. There are two. The biggest problem we have in this world is greed. Unscrupulous, unbridled, immoral, evil greed.
Mm-hmm.
The other is that we seem to think that everybody else's business is ours. I don't care how you live your life as long as you don't mess with me. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, green, purple, Muslim, Buddhist, ethical culture society, Scientologist. I don't care. As long as you're not trying to tell me how to live my life. And that's the same, I feel the same way about evangelists and door knockers, you know. You're welcome to your religion, just don't come to my door. You know, I don't believe, and I don't want to believe. I found my way, you go your way.
Yeah.
And leave me alone, and we'll both be happy. But that's what this country was founded on. You know, the right to live your life the way you see fit, as long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else's right to the same thing.
Yep. Exactly.
So we become a nation full of busybodies.
Yep.
Why?
What was the latest one in Cleveland, Ohio, where there was 3 brothers who had kidnapped kids out of their neighborhood or some neighboring neighborhood, and their neighbors, a couple of neighbors anyway, had actually seen these guys walking girls totally nude in their backyard on all fours with a dog leash around their neck. And they called the police, and the police came by, and they didn't really do much of anything. So it kind of comes to a point where you question, okay, government wants us to squeal on our neighbors, and whenever you see something, and government may or may not take any action on it. And when it doesn't, you get pissed off at them. So it's
You know, as an update to that, I heard this morning the police department has said they went back through all of their records and had no records of any phone calls. Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. And then they let the other 2 brothers go, and they're only charging one guy. They said the others didn't have anything to do with it.
Oh, come
After
on.
10 years, excuse me.
You call aiding
How
and
could they
abetting
not
as an
know?
accessory?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, after 10 years, how could they not know?
Right.
So, yeah, there's collusion going on in all sides, and we just, you know, we have to. The bottom line is, we as a people have to stand up and start taking on our responsibility as citizens of humanity, not as United States citizens, not as Catholics, Jews, Protestants, but as citizens of the world with human beings. Everyone is a human being, and we all have the same God-given rights. But society says, well, he's a Catholic, he belongs here. He's a Jew, he belongs here. He's black, he belongs here. He's white, he belongs. And you can't like him because he's this way. Excuse me, that's not the way that society is supposed to work, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. And since Troy is still being silent over there, so I'm just picking on you a little bit, Troy.
I'm really sorry, Brother Troy. I just, I dealt with these things for so many years and been so into it. It's hard to stop once you get going, because there's so much to cover.
All I can say is bless you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. The one thing that actually is pissing me off a lot, and okay, fine, I said piss, but anyway.
This is the internet. We're not censored here.
Yeah. The thing that actually bothers me recently, and hold on, let me take a quick cough. Okay, thank you.
Gotta love the cough switch.
Yeah, you got it. The thing that's bothering me, and I think I've talked about this with Troy, but if I didn't, I know I spoke to some other people about this, and this is one of those things that's really pissing me off, especially using the example of the Boston bombing a couple of weeks ago. And there were 3 people that got on the air, and only 2 of them I remember by name. Pamela Geller and this Eric Rush. They're both public figures in their own way. And the bombing had just happened just a few minutes before they got on air and started yelling, "It's Muslims! It's the Islamic people!" And they just pushing and flaming this, blowing the flames of Islamophobia in the United States. And it just pissed me off because I'm going, the police right now are just trying to handle the situation, and there's probably a few guys that are just starting to organize, who are we going to look for, what are we looking for, etc., etc., etc. And we've already got people throwing up the flags of, it's Islam. And it's the same thing of people that say, they start blaming somebody else. It's like saying that everybody from Germany during World War II was a Nazi. And that's not a true statement. We know this is a fact. Okay, everybody in Europe was sympathetic towards the Nazis. Well, we know that's not true either. Okay, we know that the Nazis started their war right in their own country before they even went to Poland, which was one of the first countries that actually they warred against. They started in their own country. It was taking away all the firearms. They started killing off the people that were burdens to the government, people that could not take care of themselves, to put it in a general book, in a statement. These are general statements that always puts us in the wrong frame of mind. And I had read something recently that made me think a little bit differently of it, and this is why I was asking the question a little bit earlier about who are the true criminals. Because the article was written, I thought it was written very well, in my opinion, is saying it doesn't matter that Islam itself is a peaceful religion, and in true it is, because the moderate people of Islam, the ones that we know and forget, the ones that do not wear the, what do you call them, the women that wear the basically a tent that only allows them to see, okay? The guys, not all
Burkas.
of Islam, what?
Burkas.
Yeah. And not all of the men in Islam run around looking like they're wearing tunics or bathrobes, whatever the case may be. They look just like anybody else. I have friends that live in Morocco, and females, they're wearing pantsuits, they're wearing miniskirts just like anybody else. I have friends in Iran. They're just normal, average people. Okay, when I met them when they were here in Mexico, the girl was wearing blue jeans. The only thing that she wore that was somewhat traditional is she wore a scarf over her hair. That was it. When she was in public, she wore a scarf over her hair. Otherwise, she had blue jeans on and a regular top. She looked like anybody else. This is just like any other religion. You have those who are following it to the letter, which is we're learning is Sunni and the Sharia. People are pushing the Sharia law. I didn't even know all this stuff. But you can't sit up here and say that the whole is just what you see of the few. But on the other side of this, if the majority, the ones that are saying, yes, we are the peaceful people, and you're not doing anything to rein in the people that are causing the problems and giving you the bad name, then basically, in effect, you are ineffectual. Maybe you are the criminal because you're not stopping those who are causing the problems.
Right. Well, the problem is solidarity. There is no solidarity. It's like it's one individual in this world being charged by a group of individuals. Okay, it's a business enterprise coming after individuals, and it's kind of like almost like a gangbang scenario. You know what I mean? So I think that it's not so much laziness that keeps people from acting in the right direction, so much as it is fear. I mean, you look at people in any given community in America, how many people actually know all 5 of their nearest neighbors? They don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if they did, and let's say the cops, for example, surrounded a house en masse, if the other community members would get off of their fearful butts and get out there and go ask an official what's going on here, then some action would be taken. But it's the fear that kicks in that makes them hide out in their house because, oh my goodness, a shot might be fired. I don't know what's going on over there, but I might get hurt. So I'm going to duck in the corner here and not take any action. I mean, I've seen situations where there were many, many witnesses literally just standing around watching a crime occur, and they were not able to act, not out of laziness, but out of panic that was brought on by fear. And panic is paralyzing. And I think that's what's happening with the people in this nation here in the United States. Everybody's not so much a lazy, worthless couch potato. They've absolutely been brainwashed that if they do anything that the government or the, let's call it the officials, would consider out of line, boy, those officials are egregious people. They're going to come and ruin your life, as evidenced by this case we started talking about with this 16-year-old honor student. They are out to make things for you a living hell because you had an oops.
You can't fight
That's a
City
problem.
Hall.
Yeah. It's a problem. The people have to come together in absolute solidarity and say, hey, look, bottom line is, if you look at America, there's like about 312 million of us, and really about 3 million of you are causing all of the problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to get together in groups of 100 each week, and we're going to take out one guy in the group or one girl in the group each week and throw their sorry ass in jail for causing 99 other people so many problems.
Well, I think you're overestimating, actually, because the actual power figures in this country, there are very few.
I agree. It's an oligarchy.
And, this really started taking off. I don't know if you're familiar with Bernays, the book Propaganda.
Yeah.
The government has taken through propaganda has taken the idea of divide and conquer to the pinnacle of its existence. The only way they can thoroughly control us is to keep us separated, afraid, and confused, and at each other's throats. And if we all come together, that's why, again, I go back to the movie Network. You got to understand, all these people standing, across the country, standing outside their windows yelling, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's what it's got to take, and I keep saying this over and over again on my Facebook page. When we all stand up, they don't stand a chance.
Solidarity, exactly.
And you have to get past the fanaticism. Fanatics in any form,
Right.
form, is a mental fart. I'm sorry. It's an extreme situation that people should never get to. You can't. Being fanatic about something limits all your possibilities for growth, for interaction, for societal change, for anything. All it does is make you a villain.
Yep. You guys were talking about something, and I'm going to, if you, maybe this may be just going into details, talking about fear. Fear, many people look at fear as something like what Troy was talking about just a moment ago, is something that's violently fearful. I'm afraid that I might get shot. I'm afraid I might get blown up. But I think a lot of this comes from, and I'm going to tie this in with conformity. If I don't conform, I'm afraid that I will be left outside of the community. I will be left outside of society. I will lose my belongings, because a lot of people, as we know, they base their existence on what they have. I have a car. I have this. George Carlin loves to talk about that, or we should say loved, because he's dead now. But nonetheless, I have, this person has a truck. Oh, I want that truck. Oh, I want a better truck than this. Or as we do nowadays, oh, you have a smartphone. Well, I've got the iPad or the iPhone 5. Well, I've only got the 4. Oh, I buy a Nokia. Oh, well, I'm buying a Samsung. And it's a constant thing of, how do we identify who we are? And many people identify it through what they own. Oh, I live in this neighborhood, or I drive this kind of vehicle. It doesn't have to be a car. It has to be a SUV nowadays, and all this kind of stuff. And this is what I think a lot of people are afraid of losing. Oh, well, the government won't just shoot me. They'll come and take my stuff away, and then I've lost my identity. Okay? The conformity that we have been taught to have, to live, to want, to desire, instead of being individuals living in a community. And I say it that way because, as Stash said it earlier, I am who I am, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. It's not my problem. It's just another way of saying what he said, is I live in this society, and I'm willing to live by these sets of rules, which Troy said earlier is common law. I'm not bothering anybody. Nobody's bothering me. Everybody's fine. Everybody's gentle. Good. Life is good. I'm doing my thing. You're doing your thing. Nobody's hurting or harming anybody. That's being your individual and living in a society that has to have some form of conformity, but not so much that it limits us, as Troy has been saying, about limiting the imagination and trying to understand life and how I fit into it and how things work, etc., etc.
I think it's an anomaly of the same issue that we run into with basically externalizing power. Oh, thank goodness, thank God, devil made me do it. It's the same kind of thinking that's happening there, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you tie that in with, as I mentioned a minute ago, propaganda, another classic old movie, it was cheesy as all get out, was They Live. And there were aliens that had put a visor over humans' perceptions, and all of the signs and everything they were reading said buy, consume, conform, obey.
Our movie society, with Roddy McDowell.
Yes, and our society is so rampant through the media with this subliminal conforming thing that you ain't nothing if you ain't got this car. You ain't nothing. You will never get the girls unless you use this cologne. It puts pressure on people subliminally. They don't really get it. That this is what's being done to them, and that's the whole basis for propaganda, is subterfuge and controlling the way people think. And this is is what people have to get past. That's why, they say turn off your TV. Don't read the newspaper. Don't look at regular mainstream magazines. The internet right now is the battlefield of the revolution, because people are finally getting to the point where they can have information. And the cell phones, they may have mixed blessings and whatever, but most of them have cameras. And you see more and more people putting up videos of police atrocities and, the idea of a civilian paparazzi watching everything. Going back to the Boston bombing, there were pictures on the net of the kid leaving the scene with his backpack on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There were also pictures of agents from the craft, which was Blackwater, running around with these black backpacks with the white patch and the stripes on the arm things that perfectly matched the picture they showed. And that picture they showed with the backpack, nothing was burned, nothing was melted. Nothing, it was just a torn up backpack. Now, why were these guys running all over with these backpacks and then try and claim this kid did it when he left with his backpack through, before the explosion even happened?
It comes back to like the kid who cuts the part in classroom and blames the guy behind him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a diversionary tactic. It's that somebody else did it, not me. It's not my responsibility. I'm not accountable. And talking about people and their possessions, they do the same thing with that. It's like they focus more on that which is external to themselves as property than that which they hold within them as knowledge. Okay? The only property we really have is our life experiences, the knowledge, the information we carry. All other possessions that are external to us can be either lost or stolen or broken and discarded. And yet we place so much importance on that which is external to us, and not even focusing on that within, and we also do that with, against other people, we've got to figure out a way to get past our collective, dysfunctional, psychology, really.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to blame the guy next to us. We always want to cover our tracks so that we don't have any accountability or, God, I remember when I was a kid, it was like a popular saying was, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me, right? Boy, I'll tell you what, the last two generations have obviously never heard that expression before, or certainly have never believed it, because you can just call a kid fatty these days. Oh my God, all hell is going to rain down on you for that. There's absolutely, we're like oversensitized. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're politically correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to hell with that.
Yeah, there's nothing correct about politics. Politics is basically criminal enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about subjugation, enslavement, and exploitation.
I'm trying to think of this comic strip that I just saw recently. It says, what is politician, or what is politics? It says it's an artful way of putting things off until it's no longer important.
I heard it was a hybrid definition. Many.
I saw one the other day that just tweaked me. It was a kid saying, "Dad, I think I'm looking at a career in organized crime," and he says, "Oh yeah, crime or politics?"
Yeah.
There is no difference.
There isn't much difference.
I was looking at a hybrid definition that put the two words poly together. Poly, a Greek word meaning many,
Yeah.
and ticks being blood-sucking creatures.
Well, wouldn't in that sense Congress be the opposite of progress?
Right.
Or Congress is just a gathering of baboons.
It's sitting in the middle of a 17 square mile logic-free zone.
That's always bugged me about the word conversation. It's like, if you look at the word and break it down, that's like saying that whatever's happening is without verse. Verse implies harmony. It implies beauty. So to sit there and say I'd like to converse is really a conversionary process where, there is no common ground being found, because there is basically, the conversation is without verse, without harmony.
And of course, in confront, I mean, con is the opposite, so that would be the opposite of front. So wouldn't that be stabbing someone in the back?
Exactly right.
So it's just it's a societal thing. This is what I keep saying to people. Our biggest problem is we live in a sick society that is run by moneyed, greedy people. And it's not run by we the people. It's not run by humans. It's run by those that have had empathy bred out of them over the centuries, mostly in an inbred bloodline, all the way back from the pharaohs. And that inbreeding brings craziness.
I'd like to point out something about those two prefixes. It's funny. We honor this Constitution, okay, which is supposedly a beautiful, wonderful thing, and yet the opposite of that word would be prostitution.
Yeah.
It's funny. So we seem to be going through life looking at the ugly reflection of all of the possibilities that lays before us that is truly divine. I don't know why we decided species, but we are hurting.
Constitution fits in a way because the purpose of the Constitution was to limit government, not the people, but to limit government. So, it's against government, basically.
Right, or without institution, basically, right?
Against the institution,
yeah.
So it makes sense in that term, but still,
Indeed,
you have to get back to it and honor it. And this is what, as I said earlier, this is what this big battlefield is about now that we're on. The most of the major power figures in the world figured that the internet is the worst thing that ever happened to their power structure. It is a threat to national security. It is all the bad things wrapped up into one because people can talk.
I can tell you one thing about this country. There is no national security. The only security that exists is for the politician and the business owner.
And that which we provide for ourselves, which is the basis for the militias being.
Well, true, but then that makes us criminals in their minds, because we're supposed to be good tax-paying citizens, and we're supposed to work our jobs, and we're supposed to follow the order of the officer who just pulled you over for no other reason than he just suspects that you might look like a criminal, and he's calling that probable cause. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, they can call us criminals all they want, but calling and being are two different things. To them, we're criminals because we're going against their rights, or what they believe are their rights. What we're doing is defending what we believe is ours.
Right.
So let them call us criminals if they want. But to me, as far as I'm concerned, anything I do to reestablish a constitutional republic, I'm being a patriot to this country. And I do not see patriot as a bad word. Patriot is to the well-being of the nation, not to the well-being of the politicians or the leaders.
Indeed, it is an act of preservation.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. And some things are worth preserving. And freedom and liberty are examples of that.
If you look at the basic idea of the militia, the reason that they're formed is to protect your home, your family, your community, your state. Not to, be part of the Gestapo that controls everything, but to protect that which you and your neighbors have, and working together with your neighbors to protect a common thing, your home, your family. And that was the basis that it was put in the Constitution, that the militias are there for the states to protect in case of invasion. They are every able-bodied person. In those days, it was men. 17 to 45. Now it's 17 to a bit older because we're living longer. But we are all expected to be part of the militia. All of us. As our duty.
Go ahead, finish.
As our duty as a citizen, we are expected to protect our homes and to help protect our state. And they even formalized it. I'm through.
Oh, okay. You had those nice pauses in there to bring a point up, and I'm just like, okay, he stopped. No,
well,
okay, not yet.
Over.
No, I was thinking about what you were saying, and this was something that I only read print. The only way I get my news is through reading it, and I do this on purpose because if there's something that I don't want to see, like listening to news on TV or on the radio, I have to listen to everything that I don't want to hear to get to what I really want to hear. So I prefer to just read it and go, okay, there's the information. I get at least the idea of it, and I'll scan to the end to see if there's anything that's out of place. Then I go, okay, I'm finished. Next. I like doing it that way. So recently, they were talking about there is a mad rush going on in the United States to buy firearms. They're saying that there are so many people that are buying it now that manufacturers are back ordering guns, whether it be handguns or rifles. And I believe the nation is beginning to wake up and going, the police are doing what Troy was saying. They're protecting their corporate bosses. Now, I'm putting that very general, but nonetheless, you think about a police officer. When we were kids, they were generally very nice. You could talk to them, you could approach them. It's like the pictures that are going around in Facebook now, going from Adam 12, where they were some cops you could approach, and they were nice and gentle until you crossed them, and then they became a little rough. To now, the biggest shows are showing cops in battle fatigues, urban battle fatigues and helmets, looking like they're going to war. And, if you look at YouTube and they're filming police, and the police come over and snatch their cell phones away from them, and you can't do that, and you're going, oh, yeah, I can.
Oh, yeah.
Supreme Court says I can do that.
Yeah.
You see, now there's one of the biggest things I was just mentioning a few minutes ago, the battle on fear. Capturing these people. People can stand back and say, he's doing wrong. I'm going to make a public spectacle of this. Like the guy who tear gassed all those, or pepper sprayed all those students back and forth and back. All of a sudden, his name, address, phone number, everything was out on the net. And people are saying, oh yeah, here's the guy that did it. He's no longer anonymous. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the benefits of being in an information society. And as far as guns go, during World War II, the Japanese emperor would not invade America because he said there's a gun behind every tree. Well, it's grown a little bit since then. Now it's behind every blade of grass. There's a gun. And there are 84 million registered gun owners. That does not include all of the people who don't have to register. I mean, if somebody gives me a gun, I don't have to register it, only if I go buy one.
Yep.
So just think about I've seen videos of several police chiefs who said, we won't send our people out to confiscate guns. It's a suicide mission.
Well, guess what's coming next, guys? They're gonna probably ban 3D printers.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what I said. But you know how they are. There's nothing's going to stop them from trying it. They don't want people to be able to make a product with their own printing system at home. Whether that be a new fork or what. So yeah, I'm just waiting for them to hear the news. That they're banning 3D printers.
The funny thing is enforcement, as has been pointed out. I know, Troy, you and I are both members of Universal Voice on Facebook. One of the things that's been pointed out is that with the money situation the way it is, these people who are trying to ban and enforce all of these things are running into a problem because they're running out of
Right.
How can you enforce martial law in a country when you can't pay the mercenaries?
Right.
And the military goes AWOL. Because as soon as you try to declare martial law, they say, wait a minute, you want me to shoot Americans? I'm going to go home and defend my family, and I'm going to take everything I have with me.
Exactly.
And from the estimates I've heard, something like 80% of the military will just walk off with everything they have and go home and defend their families.
That's the point I was coming to a little bit earlier, is just how many of those people would actually do it. And I think that the Americans are now looking at it as going, there are too many people that want to hold on to those things that identify them for what they think they are, what they want other people to think they are. I don't want to lose this, I don't want to lose that. So there will be people that stay there and say, I don't agree with this, but I don't want to lose those identifiers.
Right. But then they're going to become the villains.
You got
they
it.
and their families will be ostracized, and they won't have those things. When the society turns around, when this finally breaks loose, when, as they say, the shit hits the fan, the political leaders who have been operating, well, no, I say political, but basically they're the gangbangsters. They're in control of the money, but when the money's gone, where's their control?
Mm-hmm.
So they're on the verge of losing, and at this point, it appears they're fighting a losing battle because of the internet and because of a loss of fear, false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
They are losing control, and they're fighting with everything they have right now. Their last dying gasps of trying to keep control of an empire that's been going far too long.
Yeah.
And we're waking up, and we're doing our part right here to wake people up to the fact that all they're doing is using you as cattle and sheep. You're produce. You're a commodity. They don't care about you.
I think people are just tired of having wound after wound after wound inflicted on them, just to have the very entity that created the wound come along and pick the scab right in the middle of the healing process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I've just absolutely had it with the criminal enterprise in the business world, in the world of banking, and in the world of governance. I look at all three of those entities as among the most egregious criminals this world has ever known, because they operate as a ghost, working collectively in the shadows so that no one living person is accountable, and yet you can't attack the company because there's so many people at that organization that, and that's what the problem with the justice system is. You take one guy who has a grievance against a company like, let's say, a Monsanto. Guess what? It's one guy against maybe 150,000 employees or more. Who do you think's going to win that case?
Yeah.
The individual is always going to suffer.
Sorry, I'm sitting here looking at an article, video that I'm going to watch later. I hope it doesn't come blast me out. But basically, it says Icelandic. Basically, Icelandic people tell the UK, "Up yours. Why are we responsible for big bank greed?"
Yep.
Yeah. Why
How many
haven't
people
we
in
done that?
America know what went on in Iceland?
Not many, I don't think.
No, because it never hits mainstream media. They don't want you to know that you have the power to stand up and say no.
Right.
And I have another question that's been bothering me about the Sandy hoax thing. And I'll say it right out. It was a hoax. There were 20 children killed, so they say. And they wouldn't let the parents see the bodies. Now, I know, Troy, you're a parent. I don't know, Kirk.
Yep.
Do you have? Okay. Now,
Grandparent at that.
if my child was in that situation, I would friggin' move heaven and earth. I'd shoot people to get to my kid,
You betcha.
to take care of my kid, to bury my kid, to grieve for my kid. Yet they wouldn't let these 20 people see. Well, that's probably because there was nothing to see.
Yep.
I read stories that they probably were sold into, slavery. which our government's been doing too. You know,
Yeah.
But where's the logic? Where is the logic? If it was my kid, you would not keep me away. Period. I don't care who you are. God. You know,
Yeah.
I'll take on God to get to my kid. So that's just like George Bush with his upside down book. I say bullshit. Period. And I can't pull punches anymore. I'm tired of being polite, politically correct. It's all bullshit. It's all government manufactured crap.
Indeed.
So, and I'll leave it at that.
Well spoken.
Actually, it's probably good. We've been on here for 2 hours, and actually, I'm going to end the show here pretty soon. I'm not going to run it up to 2 hours and say, well, that's it, it's finished. No. If we go a little past it, that's fine. However, I do want to invite those who have listened to this program so far. If you've been this far, we hope that you will be on Troy's show at the end of the month. It's always the last Tuesday of every month. We have a 2-hour discussion group. In other words, we'll open it up. It's live. This is pre-recorded. It'll be live. You're welcome to join in with us. It is done on a webinar basis, so there will be some information that is asked. It is not gathered by me, and I've never known anybody to have any ads or any privacies broken by any meeting who is the host of the show to your privacy. This time, I don't believe we'll bother to do a registration. We'll just leave it open to the public. You can come in and enter, join in, be a part of the group. We're always looking for people who have constructive thoughts, questions, or even suggestions. Please come along and join in with us. Troy, you have something that you wanted to mention about what the show is about for the end of the month? You want to tell us at least something about it?
Sure. On the show at the end of this month on the 28th, which will be 5 o'clock Pacific time, the focus of the show is going to be how to empower the musician, the performer, the recording artist, to basically run their business easily, effortlessly, essentially effortlessly, as well as very cost effectively. I mean, ridiculously cost effectively. So what we're trying to do is bring down, in a sense, the big record company corporate ideal where basically the artist gets about 10% of what they earn while the business takes the rest of it. We're trying to kind of weed that kind of system out. So we've started an entity called MyGigNet, and the site is all about basically helping virtually anybody in the business, even people at record companies. I mean, we're going to have custom applications so that if, let's say, you're a publisher and you need to do very specific workloads each day to conduct your business, you'll have tools that are ideal for the publisher. We will have tools that are available for the recording studio owner, the venue, or the club owner, the musician themselves. That'll have things like here you can go and buy, sell, or trade your instrument, as well as find other musicians who are maybe looking to put a band together. All of these tools are going to become available in a really huge way here very soon. We don't have an official release date yet, but we would definitely love to share what we're doing with the MyGigNet the approach. So I hope you can tune in on the 28th, and thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. And if I remember this correctly, the website address is mygignet.com.
Yes, there is basic information there. There are no actual working applications at this time. Really, it's just an informational site. We are currently in the process of developing the custom business applications. The first one we're going to start with will cater to musicians.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a member of MyGigNet almost since its inception.
Yeah. It's been in development for 11 years now, I believe.
So now it's hitting the internet. So for those who are listening, MyGigNet, MyGignet.com. So, with that, we're going to bid you adieu. Thank you for joining in with us, and we hope to see each and every one of you on what's the date again there, Troy?
The 28th of this month, May.
Tuesday, the 28th of May. Go to our website, which is, you hear it in the closing part here, but it's www.YTYR that's your thoughts, your reality, radio.tk. It's a little bit different. We'll get into explaining that another time. Anyway, thanks for joining in with us, and we'll see you soon. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Please make a note to join us again on our next broadcast. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Our theme music is Soul Controlled by B.O. Crew under a Creative Commons License 3.0. See our website for more information.